Hi guys, and welcome back to today's video. Today I want to show you my Pinterest board because we are going to sell my Pinterest board. I'm going to Austria soon and I need some cute summer clothes for it. That's why I thought it's a cute idea to show you my Pinterest board and how my design process goes, and also how many pieces I'm actually able to do in a short amount of time. Spoiler, it wasn't that much, but I hope you still enjoy watching it. So I pictured some outfits that could look cute with some mountains in the background, especially light colors, but also a mix of fabrics like linen and denim, maybe also some kind of polka dot fabrics and gingham fabrics. And I just printed everything out and pinned it, and I started sketching right away because I already had some pieces in mind that I wanted to make. So I probably told you in the beginning of this video that I am going to Austria soon and I need some cute summer clothes. So the challenge for me was to search for easy items that I can do in a couple of days, because today is Tuesday and we are leaving on Saturday. So that means I only have a couple hours today. It's almost 5 p.m. so I don't have that much time. If I get up early on Wednesday and Friday, I will be able to do a couple of things, and I planned to attempt to do 4 pieces. So let's see if that's a good idea or not. And the big challenge for me was also to only go 4 fabrics that I have at home. So that's why I also pinned a couple of fabrics already that I have right here. So yeah, let me get you through. So first piece I want to make is this skirt right here. I do have a pattern that I already made for university 2 years ago, I think, and I made it already, so I know this works. And yeah, I was inspired by those 2 pieces and I think that's super cute. The pattern I have is a bit shorter than that. I think it's more like this one. And I have this fabric right here. It's a beautiful linen fabric with embroidery on top. So that's very cute, and I wanted to make a matching shirt later, not in this week, but someday. Then we have this area right here where I have a couple of things. So basically I do have this pattern. It's on my Etsy store. It's the Celia vest. And I thought about also making one with those pinstripes, but I don't have a fabric like that. But what I do have is this one right here. And I think that's also maybe cute to do like a matching set with polka dots. I like it, but it could also be a bit too much. So I'm not sure about this one, especially because I already made it, but let's see. So these ones I'm not sure because I just don't have the perfect fabric for it. That's also a pattern that I already have. It's the Fenya dress pattern, but I could also just do the top instead of a dress. I also have another black fabric that's from my Fenya dress video. That could be cute. Next is another vest, but this time with denim. I also thought about upcycling, but I'm not sure if I have an old pair of jeans somewhere. That could easily work for a vest like that. And I sketched 2 versions, so this one is more like on the photos, but I also thought maybe a vest that is more like a top, so let's see. But I think I will go more in this direction. So that's that area, so I guess I'm going to do the skirt for sure, the top I think too, and if I can, this vest right here. And on this side I just pinned this one right here. I already made that, but I will take it with me to Austria. It's in a beautiful pink color, and I just thought maybe I can also do a kind of a blouse. I made a dress already with this one and I have a bit of leftover fabric, so I think a top could also be cute. But yeah, that's my board for now. I do have a couple more pieces right here that I think are also cute, like matching sets. That's cute. This part right here looks cute too. There is like a crochet vest. I would love to do something like that too, but I cannot crochet. But that might change soon because today's video is sponsored by Craftsy. Craftsy is an amazing online community for creative people where you can find over 2,000 classes in topics like sewing, knitting, crocheting, painting, cooking, and so much more. I've been exploring some of their classes and honestly, I feel super tempted to finally crochet crochet. Maybe I'll be able to make a vest like this someday after all. What I love about Craftsy is that the lessons are broken down into easy to follow steps so you can learn at your own pace. The classes are taught by professional award-winning instructors who explain everything very clearly. And the best part, the first 1,000 people to click the link in the description will get a full year of Craftsy Premium for just $1.49. Just a heads up, this offer is just for new members only, so if you've never tried Craftsy before, now is the perfect time to join. You'll find the link right at the top of the description and also in a pinned comment. Go ahead and check it out, and back to the video. So as I told you, I want to attempt to do 4 pieces, and with that I think that's more than enough, and I just start with this one because I have everything here. That's something I want to try to finish today. So let's get started with this one. So I cut everything out and it's pretty easy to sew actually. So we have the facing right here for the top part of the skirt. And here is the yoke part that will be the shell part. And I put some lightweight interfacing on it. You won't see it on camera, I think it's very thin. That's the front and those are the back pieces. So I'm just going to close all side seams, which means I'm going to take those pieces, close them right here. Same for the facing part. Then we have our skirt pieces, and for that I have the upper skirt piece, that is the shortest one. So this is the front piece right here, and this is the back part, and I'm just going to close the side seams for now. I leave the center back open because we need to insert a zipper right here. And then I also need to gather at the top. I like to do that after closing the side seam, so I have some gathers at the side seam too. And I need to do that for the bottom skirt part too, that's the longer one. I'm quickly going to close the side seams, do the gathering, and then I will be back. I tried to film the process for TikTok too. As you guys might know already, I'm not good at taking enough videos for TikTok and stuff, but yeah, I try my best. For the assembly part, we are going to mark the center front for all skirt pieces, then I pin that together. In the next step, I align the side seams, then I pin the center back pieces, and I start to adjust the gathering. Sometimes you need to let it out a bit or gather even more. I just make sure that the gathers fit to the yoke, and then I go ahead and sew from the gathering side. I repeat the same steps for the bottom skirt part. So I first gather it, making sure that I align the center front and the side seams while pinning it to the yoke, and I just sew again. This part doesn't need to be that clean because you won't see it anyway. Next, I need to figure out if I need to make any adjustments, and I also thought it's a good idea to shorten the front part right here. I like that it's curved, but that was a bit too curved in my opinion. To be honest, I did not measure anything, I just guessed it and cut it away. A bit more at the bottom part and a bit less at the top part, so the proportions are still the same. After that, I tried the settings for the rolled hem at my overlock machine. I always test it on a scrap fabric, and then I went ahead and finished the hemline. So the hem is done, and now I need to sew the top skirt part right here to the bottom skirt. This way I can treat it as one layer and insert my invisible zipper in the back. And yeah, it's not the perfect color, but I think it's okay. You won't notice that much once it's sewn in. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do, and then it's almost finished. Okay, the zipper is also done. It's almost matching up right here, but not not that much, but it's okay. I'll leave it like it is. And now it's time to do the facing. Since I changed the side seam, I need to do all the alterations to the facing too, so this way it fits again. And then I'm going to go ahead and close the top edge. And after that, I think I just leave the bottom edge of the facing down, and I just top stitch at the shell part right here of the yoke, and that's it. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do now, and then I'll be finished. To see me wearing this skirt, stay tuned till the end of the video and let's continue with the next piece. We are done with this skirt. Now it's Wednesday and it's currently 2:30, which means I still have today for like cutting new things out and maybe also sewing if I'm quick. I'm not sure. I always feel like take way too long for all those things, so the skirt was actually a quite quick project, but I'm not the fastest sewist ever, so that's why it takes me the longest. But yeah, next I want to do, I think, the denim vest. I want to do this right here because right now I don't want to do a matching top. I rather create few pieces that I can mix and match, and I think a denim vest is more suitable for all kinds of clothing pieces. It looks cute with the skirt, but also with other stuff I am going to take with me. So, and I will do this version, I guess, with those pockets. That looks cute. For that I'm going to use one of my patterns. It's the Best Bella, I think, yes. And I am going to print it out again and use size 36 because last time I made 38 and it's a bit loose because it's supposed to be like a layering piece for more like winterish pieces. So that's why I'm going to print it out again, and I need to do some little modifications to the pattern so it looks more like my sketch. So yeah, let me show you what I'm doing. So I think altering patterns is a good skill to have because most of the time you kind of find something you like, but it's not exactly like you pictured it. So it's good to learn how to alter patterns. That's why I wanted to show you a bit of that process today too. I went ahead and measured the bust line, so the circumference for the bust, and also for the waist. That's why I marked it right here. And I measured everything to make sure what's the final garment width. This pattern is supposed to be loose fitted. That's why I know there's much ease in it. And I just wrote that down. So for the bust area, which is right here at this notch, I need to remove 2 centimeters in circumference, and since that's half of the pattern, I need to remove 1 centimeter across those pieces. So I guess I'm going to remove those at the side seam and then at the dividing seam for front and back piece. So I removed everything at the height of the bust notch, in case you were wondering where I removed it. And then I drew a line until I reached the waistline. So that's that so far, and now it's time to reduce the width at the waistline, and for that I actually need to reduce about 15 centimeters for the circumference, so that means 7.5 on those pattern pieces, which is quite a lot. So now I'm thinking about where I should do that. It would make sense to do it here, 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 and also here in the dividing seams. So basically I don't touch the center back and center front, which means I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts that I could remove it. And for 7.5 divided by 6, it's 1.25. And I think I just go ahead and do that, which means I go in by 1.25. And then I reconnect it with the other part we just drew. And for the bottom I just try to flare it out a bit because I think the width for the bottom part was good for me. So I just try to reconnect that and also make sure to mark your notches if they disappear. Same right here, 1.2. And I also go ahead and reconnect that here too. Also bringing back the belt position right here. Of course, I do that for the back pieces too. This way the vest will be fitted. It's important to do it now since I want to make a welt pocket and I can't change anything at the dividing seam of the welt pocket. Next thing I need to check is the neckline because I want it to be more of a V neckline. At the moment it's, if you take a look at this pattern piece right here, it's curved at the center front and I think I don't want that, and I also want to make the shoulder width a bit smaller because I know that it was quite wide. For the shoulder part I just removed 1 centimeter at armhole and neckline and I reconnected the lines. So I just quickly holded the center front piece against my body and I just think I will do a higher neckline because this way I could also just wear the vest. So it could also function as a normal top. That's why I am going to make it a bit higher. And I would also have 4 buttons. Of course I need to make sure to change the spacing right here, but yeah, that would add 1 more button, which also looks good I think. I taped the front together just to see if I need to change something or if that looks good. It seems very fitted, so that's good. And also the neckline is now higher, which means I could also wear it on its own later. So I think I leave it like that. So now onto the pocket position. So I just mark that. So I'm going to make a pattern for that. So once that's sewn, here's the pocket. And then I thought it would also look cute if the straps are in one piece like that. And then I have a dividing seam right here and I could also top stitch here. I think that could be a cute detail. I just do it and try it. And for the back, I also put those pieces together at the shoulder. And then I went ahead and kind of did a curved line right here. Now it's time to iron my fabric again. And then I can go ahead and cut everything out. Since this pattern is based on my vest Bella, I won't share every step of the sewing process. Basically, I repeat the exact same steps like I showed for my Bella vest video, except for the fact that I now have a small pocket above the bust area and I also top stitched all dividing seams, so that's the only difference, but basically I did the exact same steps. For the top stitching I had a couple of options, but I just tested it and went with this color right here. So here are the basic sewing steps. I started with the facings and the linings. I just combined everything and left the side seams open. Next I sewed the flaps and top stitched everything, and I also did that for the belt part in the back. I sewed the center back seam, pressed it open and top stitched right away. I prepared my bobbin thread with some thicker thread that I showed you before, so the top stitching looks like you would see it on a pair of jeans. That is also the reason why I sew from the wrong side of my fabric, because I only have that thread in my bobbin thread and the top thread is still the thinner one, because I tested it and I found it easier to sew this way. If the top thread and bobbin thread are in the same thicker thread, it just doesn't make a nice seam. That's why I decided to switch around my bobbin threads, so I prepared one for normal sewing and one for top stitching. So I sandwiched in my belt pieces, sewed all dividing seams for the back and top stitched, and that's how the back piece looks like now. Now I can continue with the front pieces and I will start with the dividing seam first. Of course I top stitched here too, and then it's time to combine the flap with the strap piece that is left. I pin everything together and top stitch afterwards. I also prepared this little square right here for my buttonholes later on. I will do them by hand. But for now it's time for the welt pockets, and those are a bit complicated, but I try my best to explain it in a short amount of time. The welt pockets are drawn in the paper pattern, and I poke my needle through the pattern at the edges of the welt pocket. Then I mark those with vanishing chalk, and I just check once more if the position is at the same height on both front pieces. After that I take my vanishing chalk and mark the welt pocket how it's supposed to be at the end once it's sewn. Now I need to prepare the welt itself. I am measuring 7 cm down from the fabric edge, flip the fabric edge and place it onto the line, press it flat, and I'm going to do a basting stitch at 2.5. That's the final width of the welt pocket, and I just use it as a guideline later on. Before I sew that on, I still need some more guidelines. I am going to draw a new guideline downwards. It needs to be the same width like the welt pocket, so 2.5. And I extend that line so I can see it once I place my welt pocket. Now I need to place my welt piece like that, with the right side facing up and the sewn part being on the bottom. The folded part needs to align with the new line we lastly drew, and since we made a basting stitch at 2.5, it now aligns with the line you can see right here. That's our stitching line. We need to sew the welt pocket onto this line. I pin the welt pocket to the front piece. I cut it too short by accident. I needed to add more seam allowance to that part, but it's okay. There's just 1 centimeter on each side. Now I also need to use the extended lines to mark the start and ending point of my seam line, and then I can just go ahead and stitch from start point to end point. I'm checking if I sewed up to the guidelines or if I sewed too far, but once that looks good, I can continue with the other piece. For that I need to flip that welt pocket part away and pin it, and then I'm using the other part that functions as our pocket facing. I place it right sides together with the bottom part of the pocket facing up, like so. I forgot to extend that line, that's why I do it now. Place it back on top of it. I just pin it and draw the line. The starting and end point is also necessary, that's why I go ahead and use a pin. I pin through it and I make sure that the pin goes through the edge that we drew on. That's how I find my start and ending point, and I also sew that in place. To get a nice looking welt pocket, it's important that the seams do have the same length, and you can check from the wrong side. I can also recommend to check the distance. It needs to be 2.5 since the welt pocket is 2.5. This way you can just make sure that it fits once you cut into the garment and flip everything to the right side. Now I cut an opening right in the middle, and then I cut towards the end points on both sides. Try to cut as close as you can, but not through the seam. Now it's time to bring everything through the opening. This way the pocket will lay on the inside and you will be able to see the welt part again. I press everything flat. I also went ahead and top stitched around the welt part, and what's left is the pocket part. We need to close that too, but as you can see my pocket piece is a bit too big, so that's why I need to draw on where I need to stop sewing, and then I just sew it and the welt pocket is basically done. I do all the same steps for the other front part too. So next I need to sew the shoulder seam of back and front piece. I press it open and top stitch too. It's almost finished. Now I can place my lining and facing pieces on top of the shell part, right sides together, pin along the neckline and armholes, and I just sew that, trim everything and clip into the curves. Turn it to the right side, press it flat. I close the bottom seam at the back part too, and what's left is the side seam. I didn't film this part because I have a good explanation in the Bella vest video how to close side seams. But once you do it, you're left with an opening in the lining. That means I still need to sew that by hand. I also top stitched around the neckline and armhole. Of course, the buttonholes are still missing and the buttons too, but that's something I made during the car ride. I did all buttonholes by hand and sewed on the buttons. And that's already it, guys. That's all I was able to do during those few days. And now I can reveal my sewn Pinterest board inspired outfit. Honestly, guys, I'm happy that I wasn't able to do more pieces because the weather was not good at all. We didn't have any sun. I literally wore that outfit just for this video shoot. So yeah, but I'm still happy that I have some cute pieces and maybe we will have better weather in Germany too soon. I hope so. So if you still want to see some of the other pieces of my Pinterest board or new pieces, let me know. Or maybe it's also time to start with some autumn pieces. Thank you so much for watching and until next time. Bye!